So you've been watching a bunch of TV shows and you're thinking of buying or building a tiny house. Don't do it. At least not until you've done your research on tiny houses. Stay tuned and I'll bring you some details on tiny houses that you may not know about. Hi YouTubers, Bruce Boyes here again from Homes and Life to provide you with more valuable information about homes and some ways to improve your life. And thanks again to our subscribers for joining me with this video, and welcome to you new subscribers. Keep coming back, more videos made for you. Before I go any further, I will say that I really like the concept of tiny houses. Small, compact units made for an uncluttered lifestyle, and some even built to be somewhat off the grid. The concept is fantastic. But in reality, is it a good idea? Well, here's some things to know about tiny houses before you jump in that direction. Number one, they're tiny. That's the name. Most often they're between 200 and 400 square feet. This can work for one person or two friendly people, but very seldom will you see a family living in one for very long. Can you imagine quarantining in that space for 2 weeks? Because they're so small, you will tend to spend more time outside, which is good, but it does give consideration of your location more importance. This tiny house trend may be short-lived, as many younger people who are interested in tiny houses will see a number of life changes within the next few years, requiring a change in lifestyle and a larger home. Number two, they're not cheap. Because of their small size, most of the cabinets and storage units need to be custom made. This makes the cost per square foot 2 to 3 times higher than a traditional house. Most tiny houses are built on the deck or the frame of a trailer, adding additional costs to the build. And if they're not being relocated, that undercarriage is a wasted expense. There are a few that we see that are built more of a permanent situation. If they're to be relocated, then a heavy-duty vehicle is required, again adding to the costs. And the tires and the bearings and the brakes and all those will need periodic servicing. Number three, there are limited areas that these tiny houses can be situated. Not all regions are sold on the concept of tiny houses. Some regions will insist on units having full utilities like power, sewer, and water, while other regions require a certain size of building to be designated for full-time living. For example, in some areas, any building under 200 square feet is designated as a shed. And parking at a friend's property may sort of work for a while, but it can be hard on a friendship. You're either taking advantage of their space and amenities, or you're paying them for the use. And eventually you could run out of friends. You can also rent a site at an RV park or one of a few designated tiny house parks. But again, this adds to the expense, which kind of defeats the purpose of tiny houses for some people. Number four, tiny houses are not easy to insure. Many insurance companies want nothing to do with tiny homes. This is in part due to a lack of knowledge, but it does make insuring these homes difficult. Building standards on tiny homes seems to be kind of vague, so insurance companies are not sure of the quality of the build and are thus reluctant to insure. Some owners have designated their tiny homes as RVs in order to get insurance, but this can backfire, as many RV policies are just for part-time living, not full-time living. So this is another area that needs to be researched well before making any decisions. Number five, they're a poor investment, and this is a big one. Any vehicle, be it a car, a truck, RV, or trailer, usually only goes one way in value, and that's down. They're called depreciating assets because of this. A tiny house can cost anywhere from $25,000 to $100,000. And even though some tiny house people will build their own, there's still a cost to the time involved in building that tiny house. Some folks will have the ready cash available and can pay up front for their house. But the majority of buyers will need to finance their purchase. And financing for a tiny house is usually a personal loan at a much higher interest rate than a mortgage would be, and can also be a bit of a challenge to obtain. So, in addition to losing value on the tiny house, buyers are paying a high interest rate. And when it does come time to sell, there's a limited market for tiny homes. Usually in economics, they say that high demand increases prices, and low demand or excessive product decreases prices, suggesting that a tiny house will sell for only a fraction of the price paid. In many ways, a tiny house is comparable to a park model recreational vehicle. They provide a comfortable living space in a small area. But even the manufacturers of these park models say that they are designed and built only for part-time living. Now, usually a tiny house is built to be fairly sturdy, but again, what are the standards, and have they been inspected to ensure that they meet whatever standards there is? As intriguing as these tiny houses are, at this point, I would suggest that there are better investments for happy living. Real estate does fluctuate, it does go up and down, but overall in the USA it appreciates, or it goes up in value approximately 2 to 3% per year. So this is probably a better option for most people. Now, if you wonder how to manage your money in order to be able to purchase a home, check out the link that I've provided in the description below. So thanks again for watching, and come back again as I have more videos. And please remember to click the like and subscribe buttons below. Remember, life is an adventure, and I'll talk to you again soon.